Now, when blood enters the right atrium, it is coming from the body. It's oxygen poor. It's either from the superior or inferior vena cava, correct? What part of the circulation has just ended? What do we call that? What part of the circulation ends at the right? Pulmonary or systemic? Pulmonary begins at the right atrium, the systemic ends. So the systemic ends when the inferior vena cava, superior vena cava empty into the right atrium. Now we begin the pulmonary circulation, which means we're going to go where? To the lungs, and we're going to drop off the oxygen poor blood, or oxygen poor carbon dioxide, and we're going to make it oxygen rich and pick up the oxygen, okay? So now we've got the pulmonary circulation through the valves, through the ventricle, through the valve, through the pulmonary arteries, into the lungs, to the capillaries, drop off the carbon dioxide, pick up the oxygen. We come back via the pulmonary what? What are these called? Pulmonary what? Veins into the left what? Atrium. So at the left atrium, what circulation ends? Pulmonary. What begins? Systemic. Okay, I've been saying that a dozen times tonight, I think. So make sure you know that. So now the pulmonary circulation ends and the systemic circulation begins through the valve, through the ventricle, through the aortic valve, up through the aorta to all parts of the body. Now, a couple of structures here externally that I don't think I've mentioned yet. I can't remember if I did or not. There is a depression in the anterior portion of the heart, which is called the anterior interventricular sulcus. It means it's in between what? Interventricular. In between the ventricles, okay? So it's in between the right ventricle and the left ventricle. So essentially the sulcus or depression has two functions. It separates the right and the left ventricle externally. It also houses the pulmonary artery and vein. There's another sulcus, which is called the right coronary sulcus, and that has two functions. It carries the right coronary artery and vein, and it also separates the right atrium from the right ventricle. Okay? Got it so far?
What's the septum?
The septum is the internal separation. So here we have the interventricular septum, which actually is a wall that separates the two. This is merely a depression or a sulcus. Okay? That's a depression or a sulcus. In the wall of the atrium, you have an interatrial septum, which divides the left and right atrium. Okay? All right. Next item. Internally, there's a depression in the wall of the right atrium. It's right here. All right? Everybody see it? Everybody see it? That depression in the wall of the right atrium. That is a remnant of fetal circulation called a fossa ovale. Fossa meaning depression. Ovale meaning it's oval. In the fetus, it's called a foramen ovale, which means it's open. And we'll talk about its function on Monday. Now there's another leftover remnant of fetal circulation, and that's this little dude right here. This is called the ligamentum arteriosum, which anchors the pulmonary artery to the aorta. The ligamentum arteriosum. In English, it's the artery's ligament. The ligament of the arteries. Okay? Capiche? Everybody got it? Alright. Comprende? Comprenez-vous? Verstehen Sie?
Why are you looking at me for that one?
Isn't your last name?
Just because I don't speak it though.
Oh, okay.
I only have.
Both halves are just as good. Okay. You're fine. All right. So, that is the ligamentum arteriosum, also left over from the pulmonary circulation, from the fetal circulation. This is a functioning blood vessel in the fetus. And we will explain what that does on Monday. Okay? Now, one other thing, and that is the conducting system. This is a poor representation of it, but this is supposed to represent the sinoatrial node. This is where the actual electrical impulse originates for the heartbeat. It spreads through the wall of the atrium to this node, which is called the sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial. This is the sinoatrial. This is the atrioventricular node, the AV node. Sorry, my bad. And then that goes through these nerve fibers, specialized carrying fibers, which is called the atrioventricular bundle, from the atrium to the ventricle, also known as the bundle of His, HIS. It branches off into left and right bundle branches, left and right bundle branch, and then that branches off into the left and right walls of the ventricles. So this electrical impulse starts from here, ends up here, and that's what causes a contraction. And this is done in unison in about 0.8 of a second in the normal heartbeat. Let's see. Let's talk about pulmonary arteries, coronary arteries, coronary veins. The heart itself has its own circulation. Coronary arteries branch off from the aorta. These are the first branches off the aorta, carrying oxygen-rich blood through arteries to the wall of the heart. Here's the right coronary artery. Here's the left coronary artery. And it circles around. This left coronary artery circles around to basically feed the entire portion of the heart here. The right coronary artery branches here, goes around here, and services the right portion of the ventricle. The veins carry oxygen, rich or poor blood? Oxygen poor blood back from the heart muscle, and that's going to empty into this expanded portion of what they call the great cardiac vein, which is called the coronary sinus. This coronary sinus is an opening in the wall, in the right ventricle, right next to the inferior vena cava. That little opening right here. All right, everybody see it? Right there?
Is it a right atrium or ventricle?
Right atrium. Okay? So it empties into the right atrium. So all the oxygen poor blood either comes back from the upper part of the body by the superior vena cava, lower part of the body by inferior vena cava, or from the heart muscle by the opening called the coronary sinus. And then we start what circulation? Pulmonary. Pulmonary, okay? All right, so quick review. What's the artery that carries oxygen poor blood? The only artery that carries oxygen poor blood. Pulmonary artery. This is the pulmonary trunk, which branches off into right and left pulmonary arteries. What are the two veins that carry oxygen-rich blood? Pulmonary veins, and they are the right and left pulmonary veins. Now, have you been paying attention? Have you been paying attention? All right, who am I going to pick on? Can I pick on Amy? No. On yes? You're doing pretty good in class. All right, let's see if you've been paying attention. What's that blood vessel? Say it with confidence. Superior vena cava. What's this one? It's inferior vena cava. Okay. All four of you. What's this opening? Are you paying attention?